boys and girls, Miss Gabby here. It's so great to have you with us today. All March long, we've been talking about God's promises and how God is the promise keeper. We've learned about Joseph. The Bible tells us the story of Joseph and how God made Joseph a big promise. I hope you guys remember what that promise was. God's big promise to Joseph was that he would give him strength to help people who were in need. Many sad and unfair things happened to Joseph, but none of those things stopped God from keeping his promise to Joseph. Why don't you stand up and do the Bible motions with me? And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Romans 8:28. Good job, boys and girls. God's purpose for us is that we become like Jesus, who loved God, loved others, and used his strength to help those who were in need. Why don't you put on your thinking cap, your listening ears, and your big learning eyes and watch our Bible story.
The Faithful Hall of Fame, Joseph. This is Joseph, who was the son of Israel and Rachel. But he had 11 brothers who hated him and sold him into slavery. After being put in jail, Joseph told of the future of Egypt when he interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, and Joseph found favor with the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh made Joseph a leader in his kingdom. Just as Joseph had told the Pharaoh, Egypt had 7 years of abundance. Then the 7 years of abundance came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had said. But the Egyptians had food to eat because Joseph had planned for the famine. There was famine in all the other lands, and many came to Joseph to buy food. There was even a famine in the land that Joseph came from. So when Israel heard that there was grain in Egypt, he sent his sons to buy some. But Israel did not send Benjamin with the others because he was afraid that harm might come to him. When Joseph's brothers came to him, Joseph recognized them, but he pretended to be a stranger. So Joseph decided to test his brothers. He had his interpreter tell them to send for Benjamin, who had stayed home. And then he threw his brothers in jail for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph let all but one of the brothers take grain to their starving households with the instruction to bring Benjamin back. But Joseph provided for his brothers' journey and gave them grain and silver. The brothers did exactly as Joseph instructed, as they were scared that God was punishing them for what they had done to Joseph so many years before. They traveled home to their father's house, then back to Egypt. Now that he had seen that they brought Benjamin, Joseph was overwhelmed, so he released the brother who was still in prison. But Joseph decided to play one more trick on his brothers. He sent the brothers away but told his servant to hide his silver cup in Benjamin's bag. Then Joseph told the servant to go after the brothers and retrieve the cup. The brothers hadn't traveled far before the servant stopped them and accused them of stealing the cup. Joseph could no longer control himself before his attendants. He made them leave so he could be alone with his brothers, and he told his brothers who he really was.
Ta-da!
He told them of his life and all he had experienced, and he forgave them for what they had done. God was with Joseph and took care of him and showed him favor.
Wasn't that a great story? Boys and girls, many things happened to Joseph, but God was with him. When Joseph was scared, God was with him. When he was afraid, God was with him. When he was sad, God was with him. When he was lied on, God was with him. The Bible says that nothing sad that happened to Joseph stopped God's promise to him. Our big number one point for today is God is always with us. Can you say that with me, boys and girls? Say, God is always with us. Excellent job. Big point number 2, the Bible says that nothing sad that happens to us can stop God's good plan for us. Can we see the memory verse again? One more time. Here we go. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose for them. Romans 8:28. Great job, boys and girls. Listen, I hope you remember this week to go over your memory verse with mom or dad, grandma or grandpa, and remember that God is always with you, just like he was with Joseph. Have a great week.